Didn't do it the first time, but now I'm back. Hey, and your boy is back. Ha ha! I'm just playing. All right, but we
Fail.
could at least maybe do one of these opening sequences. I don't know. Should I do the Yvette, the cold joint? Nah, man, who cares, man? Look.
We're
All
chilling.
right, well, we're welcome to the Brady Blurty Brunch. It's me, Tyrone. It's an all male cast today, and we're going to talk about s- women's rights.
Oh,
Should that be a thing?
that's what we're doing.
That's probably not the right thing to do. I myself have a plate of pasta and
Damn,
some
flex.
chicken from The Licking, which is DJ
That looks
Khaled's
really
restaurant.
good, man. Is that
Yep,
shrimp
it is
pasta? Is that
shrimp
giant
pasta.
shrimp that I see in there?
Yep, giant shrimp
Oh
pasta.
my!
Yep, well,
Yeah,
let's
that
get a
looks
close up here.
delightful.
We got
I'm not gonna show
giant
what I
shrimp
got.
with the pasta.
Oh, that looks
You know what I'm
delightful,
saying?
my
We
brother.
got fried
Chicken wings.
chicken
Oh
right here.
man,
You know,
yeah.
and of course, we're gonna top that off with good old fashioned Crystal hot sauce. I don't leave home without it. I'm like
Hey,
Hillary Clinton.
hey, I got one. I
So
got
that's
one
what I
now.
need you know. You know what I'm saying? So don't play with me. I'm in my bag and in my stomach right now,
I'm
man.
over
Y'all,
here.
what you,
I'm
what
over
you got?
here.
What you got over there, Ty?
I'm over here eating turkey snack bites, bro. Like
It's
you over there
tasty.
with the whole joint. I'm just eating turkey snack bites. Like
Hey, shoot. Hey, get it how you live, man. What you want? What you munching on, Tyrone?
Just a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I'm 7. 7 years old. And I just want to throw something real quick so I could come and hang out with y'all. I don't know. We were coming up with like shrimp pasta and chicken and shit,
right?
making me look
I
like I'm
mean-
struggling over here because
Nah, it's leftovers, man. It ain't like I just threw this in the oven, or the what do people cook on the stove? I guess I don't know. I don't really cook like that. You know, I cook breakfast. I'm pretty good at breakfast. But yeah, we was gonna talk about. All right, well, I'm gonna keep it real, man. We might have baited and switched a little bit. If I hope it's okay, bad time. If I bring some of this stuff up, we had a fierce debate earlier about Andor and Mandalorian. Not necessarily even Mandalorian and Andor. It's honestly just whether or not Mandalorian is living up to the standard that it set for itself in the first couple episodes. And one Tyrone was pretty adamant that it's not as of this very moment, which is fine. But that's not. We'll definitely get into some of that. But in between the shows, while we lost all of our
women.
women cast women cast members.
You don't even know how to say it now. This boy.
Well, I mean, listen, I try to move with the times. I don't try to understand it all the time, or I don't try to and put myself in it. But it's definitely a topic of conversation. But this is something that we were supposed to talk about today. Well, see, just full disclosure. Tyrone Bad Ty has not been able to view our group chats. So like when I'm sitting posting like Tyrone, all of this stuff that we're going to talk about in the weekend, and posting how excited I am about the Mandalorian episode and all of this stuff. Like Tyrone's Bad Ty's not seeing any of this, so it's a whole weird thing. But one of the things that was going to be discussed was uh, Stephanie had put in the group, and I'll just read it: women versus females, and
Cage match.
yeah, women versus females, and basically the purpose was, I think, to talk about the concept of the term females being used, in a derogatory sense. I'm trying to log on to my Instagram here so I can show you where this stems from. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can get in here. Come on, let me in. Bam, we in there. Okay, cool. So, as you know, I like to post reels when I can to our Instagram page, so on and so forth. And this week was no different. We started off the week with a reel that I posted. I'll even see if I can get this on the screen real quick. Where is my search bar? And in one of these reels, we, as usual, started to get some hate. And I'm glad we get to talk about this, because this kind of hurt me a little bit, because sometimes inadvertently I lose friends or lose people that were acquaintances of mine just by association. And this week, something like that kind of happened a little bit. Oh wow, dang, we've grown again, man. Listen, bro. this freaking Simba video has not stopped. Like every day, it is an onslaught of likes and comments, and it is just it's the gift that keeps on giving, as Omar called it. But this is our Instagram page. All right, for those of y'all who don't follow us on Instagram, get on that bandwagon. All right, here's where we are now. All right, proudly sitting tall at 10, hopefully hitting 20 this year. I had to put some. Wrong. Yo, look, I ain't had to eat none yet. So, anyway, so this week's reel, I'll post it, and I hope I don't cancel this. But if I do, this ain't even the main show, so I ain't even tripping. Was this video right here that I thought was fairly clever? Let's see if it comes on with the sound. Nope, there's a sound. All right, here it is.
Kind of thing.
Never.
Slide guys.
All right, let's see.
Feel like can never watch Creed 3 kind of thing.
Never.
Slide guy got left off Bad and Bougie is Steph said it. First of all, I'm not even going to be in it. So as a result, I ain't even going to see it.
I just don't want them going into that dark space.
I wonder what kind of darkness he's talking about. I'm just kidding. It's still
That part, I feel like it was just too black for him.
Sly said to Vanity Fair that Creed 2 would be his last Rocky movie, saying all things must pass, and told Michael he'd be carrying the mantle going forward.
How are you gonna bitch that they left you off after publicly stating that you were never gonna do another one again?
Michael's telling a story highly personal. There's no room for me.
You literally said, I'm passing the baton to Creed. It shouldn't have nothing to do with you. It's not Rocky. Rocky had like 18 movies. You still want to be the main character in a movie that's not even named after you.
There's always respect and always, a shit ton of love for what he built, but we really want to push and navigate Adonis forward.
As much as I love the Rocky movies, these are Creed movies. I hear what you're saying. You like, I wasn't able to be a part. Listen, Rock, if we made you a part, you'd want a bigger part. Why? The Rock.
These are two of Marvel's biggest villains.
I'm annoyed that he's being salty about this. I sit back and enjoy that they made a great movie out of it. It's like, sit down. You can't win.
You feel like can never watch.
I love it.
I think it was a fairly. I was happy about the release of it, and so as expected, you got the Rocky sympathizers, heavy in the comments, as on display with this first comment. That's like, it ain't had nothing to do with that. That's where it stems from. The way the video was sliced together. I did that. I mean, look, I didn't intentionally gaslight folks, but I mean, I only got a minute and 30 seconds to put together this cohesive thought. So, I mean, I can't put the whole entire context. That's what the show is for. But this is where it starts to get a little murky. And you see there's some likes on here. And this is why I was saying it's not, sometimes it's not always white folks, because celebrity tattoo artists, dang, I don't even want to give them the shine, but this is a dude that I know. I know this dude personally. You know what I'm saying? So it's like awkward because I'm like, I gotta, I don't, have to decide whether or not I want to continue with what happened here. But so basically his thing is, so now we're going to act like Stallone is racist. Shaking my head. His problem is with the producers who are white. That nobody said nothing about him being racist. You know what I'm saying? I didn't imply that. I think maybe even Stephanie in her comments, she said he had a problem maybe with how black the movie was, which doesn't necessarily indicate that he's racist. So to speak.
I made a joke implying it, which was
did,
followed immediately
said,
by "I'm just kidding."
Yeah.
Sylvester Stallone. Yeah,
exactly. You know what I'm saying? You said I'm just kidding about it, blah blah. But of course, they're gonna jump to the conclusion, and I'm gonna call it out as it is. Even many, went to bat on on the possibility that there might be an alluding that he's racist or whatever. But let's just kind of finish this. It has nothing to do with the rights. It has to do with the rights of Rocky movies, not Creed. I don't know. He should have had a proper farewell in this movie. He damn well more than deserves it. It's disgusting and disappointing how my people of color twist and change his narratives without putting out the facts in a more complete way. All right, whatever. It's the internet. If you put things out in public, then you should expect public commentary. I understand that. I don't discount that. Where it gets a little salty is Stephanie in defense, which Steph is a lot more direct in her defenses, especially when she feels personally attacked. Steph goes, somebody call the wambulance. That's not even that deep. That's not even that deep. And then these two right here, Nolly and Steph, are like legit comment section ninjas. How many send-offs is Rocky gonna need? He had 50-11 movies.
50-11.
He literally said he was done, and now he wants more mentions. Okay, he didn't ask for any send-offs. His problem is the producers, and my problem with people of color starting false narratives about race when we have more than enough real problems with that issue. If you don't understand, then you're a part of the problem. All right, he doubles down on his whole blah, 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 blah. All right, the issue my people of color trying to stir up fake narratives on a racist front is far from funny to me, but I'm sure all this is going over your pretty little head. Now, that is offensive, all right? Yes, very pretty, but also brilliant. You're absurd and sad, but I'm responding because your vitriol is mildly entertaining and your engagement pushes our posts to more people. And then Nolly, as she does so well, baby girl, whenever she's like wants to chat back, she goes to the girl thing. Baby girl, I think you need to watch the whole segment on YouTube. This is just a clip of it. I think the comprehension isn't hitting for you, but that's all right. I appreciate the engagement. Did you address me as baby girl? Before I rip into you for the blatant disrespect, I'll let you fix that. All right. Now I chime in because I'm reading. At one point I'm noticing we're getting comments, and so I chime in. I look, and I'm like, oh man, that's Gus, man. That's my dude, Gus. You know what I'm saying? That I know from doing comedy shows. He lives right, in the area I live in. So I make a comment, and I say, it's just jokes and opinions, Gus. Racism wasn't even mentioned. No need to bring the cape out. And Sly will be fine, bro. The Expendables Part 11 drops next year. Thanks for the engagement. Just kind of making light of it. Trying to kind of bring it back to ground, as we say in the engineering community. And he says, no, I get it. The brothers was making jokes. And this is where the point comes in. Ty.
It's the brothers with the AS. Brothers.
It's the female that doubled down and took it left. It's the female. All right. And so just to kind of move forward, this is Stephanie's response. Brothers were making jokes. It's the female that doubled down and took it left. Ooh, the misogyny is almost a parody in itself. This is going to be delicious material. Thank you for your service and support. You seem super emotional. I'm sorry you're hurt. I hurt your feelings, but female said all I needed to know about you, in quotes. And then, but aren't you a female? And basically that takes us to, and then Nolly says, not you being obtuse on purpose. When men use female, they usually use it to be derogatory. It takes 2 seconds to say women or men. All right. Why would female be? All right. You get the point. I don't have to read the whole entire thread, but basically it boils down to now there is some confusion between the term female being used as a slang term for women as opposed to a misogynistic term meant to degrade women. And I know something about this, and I just want to say off rip, I realize the irony of us having this discussion with the absence of women.
I'm female. I'm female women.
So I want to point out that I recognize how unbalanced and how we don't have the source material of an actual woman to combat us in this, and that's we're just eating and having brunch here. But in the segment in a show that we just left, Bad Ty started saying, he said, yo, the female, and I was like, whoa. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm referring to, what happened, because in the chat, in our group chat that we have, Stephanie posted that she wants to talk about, the concept of female versus female. And as a point of reference, she posted in the notes an article that says the following. Let me see. Hold on. Let me put this up to the top so you can see it from the very beginning. This is a article that she says, my thought patterns are aligned with this. And it says, women versus female. Yes, it matters which term you use. Okay. And so just to kind of go down this rabbit hole, back when we were just friends, this is by one time for Ray. Is this Raven? This is 3 years old. Is it Raven James who wrote? Yeah, Raven James. One time for Raven James, who is the author, evidently, of this comment, this essay. So Raven James, appreciate you for educating and schooling us. Back when we were just friends, my husband and I were speaking on the phone when I noticed he used the word females when he should have said women. I pointed this out to him after explaining to him the difference as well as why it personally bothers me. He decided he would stop doing it. That's it. That was the conversation. He realized there was something he did that bothered me, something he doesn't have to do, and he respected me enough to stop doing it. He even expressed his gratitude and explained that he likes the fact that we could learn these types of things from each other. What I didn't realize at the time is that even though his reaction was ideal and extremely atypical, there have been many a time where I or a friend have tried to make the same correction for somebody else only to be met with unnecessary backlash, as we saw in the comment section from before. In the reality, there are valid reasons why females should not be used in place of women. And this is where it gets tricky, all right? This is where the perspective of this young lady comes from, which makes some sense, all right? Fundamentally wrong. On a grammatic level, it doesn't make sense to use female in a place of a woman. The term refers to the sex of a species that is literally capable of producing offspring. Female is an adjective and can literally be used to describe any species. In other words, it doesn't make any grammatical sense to use female as a replacement for a woman in your sentences. If the word female is present, it should be used as the descriptor. I saw this female the other day. A female what? Were you by a pond and saw a female duck, a female squirrel? Let's just say you're using the word female to describe something. Maybe there's an award ceremony and it will nominate the best female artist, or there's an article where the importance of female friendship. These examples are fine because they're using the word female as a description and not a noun. So, I mean, there's more to it, but I'll just leave it kind of there for now. And that's what many have kind of said. Now, I will say this, you know, not to delve into my personal life too much more, but I also have clients that I speak to for the business that I run. And the other day, and I hate when people do this to me about Black people, so I'm gonna admit out the rip that this is absurd. Just me saying it as well, but just to kind of drive home the notion that this isn't this isn't a notion that reaches across the entire spectrum of women. But I was talking with a couple of women the other day that were like, yo, this one girl this one young lady, I like to say young lady, even when, no matter what their age, I say young lady. But this young lady I was talking to, she says, yo, I'm a female. I want to be treated like a female. You know what I'm saying? Now in my head, I heard Stephanie, I heard my wife, I heard them being like, oh, I don't know if you should be referring to yourself as a female, you know, but she's a woman. And she's referring to herself however she feels like feeling. So I think it's kind of that thing where it's kind of like, I prefer Black as opposed to African American. And it becomes something that you decide internally, but people that speak to you, you're unaware. Now that I've kind of filibustered, Ty, maybe it becomes more evident before I pass it on to you as to why it is, or maybe we should go to Tyrone because I don't want to put Ty on the spot. But I think that the misconception here is that there was a time period from our generation, our era, as those of us that was like born, you know, in the 70s, 80s, maybe even the 90s, were saying the word female wasn't derogatory. It was more slash. It was kind of like chick, which I learned recently was not appropriate as well. Was kind of like whatever. I don't even remember back to what we used to say. I mean, there are some words that I know weren't right. You know, hoot nanny, hoot.
Female wasn't it? I mean, I just want to put that out there because I never heard female being used as a slang word. Like female's always been used as what it is, a description of the opposite of a male. Like I've never in my life used female as a slang word. That's like there's many more words that have been used in regards to slang when it comes to females that may or may not have been the right words to use in those times. Now, and I'm gonna throw this to Tyrone because I feel like he'll have the most knowledge and perspective on this. Is now that we're in a society and a culture where gender characterization is kind of like not trying to, but is more, we're more on the lines of not characterizing genders. Because when you say women, there are people that identify as women but are not necessarily female. Now, that's where I have the issue is like, okay, if we're not supposed to I'm only saying this because I'm trying to understand, is if we're not supposed to characterize a person by gender and calling them women because they identify as a woman, but then you say female to identify what it's defined as being able to produce. What is the actual definition of female? It's of or denoting the sex that can bear offspring or produce eggs, distinguished biologically by the production of gametes, ova, that can be fertilized by male gametes. So that is the scientific and the defined word, the definition of female. So can you basically get me to understand where and what am I supposed to be using as far as terminology or when it comes to female versus women?
So my thought on this is not necessarily. So I take a different approach.
Okay.
Sometimes, because I used to do this a lot with a lot of different things. I'm like, I don't understand what the issue is. I don't understand what we need. Sometimes it's not a matter of needing to understand. Sometimes it's a matter of just understanding what somebody else feels, how it makes them feel, and then adjusting. If you feel like you want to adjust from that point. I don't address women as females just because I started to pick up on and started to hear that it was something that bothered them. So I'm like, all right, that's a because it was very much like Vince was talking about earlier. It was very much kind of like a slang thing. It was a colloquialism used largely in the Black community, especially like around hip hop culture and stuff like that. We know that sort of thing, existed. So when we said females, it was sort of just like it was in place of women, but it was just sort of just a slang term. As I learned that it was something that brought a little bit of it's not even like necessarily derogatory or demeaning, but the way it was used in the comment section, for example,
yes,
in the context that it was used, that was obviously used to demean a group of people, right? The dudes, the brothers, but the female, like that, like in that so context does matter, but it's like I want to go back to what I was saying earlier, which is just like when we find out that people have an aversion to being described as something, I think it's pretty it's fair for us to just be like, oh, okay, I'm gonna stop describing you as that. It's the connection that you're making to our evolving understanding of gender roles and what do we call people in this group and that group and stuff like that. Think of it less as trying to hold on to words you've known and words you've used and words you've been okay with, and think of it more as, okay, what is the next step in this process? Maybe I don't need to understand why this word worked before and it doesn't work now. And it's more a matter of, okay, well, what's the way to move forward so we don't have to have these conversations anymore? And I will say, generally, when you're addressing, when you're talking about women as a group of people, whether or not those women are trans women or cis women or whatever, anything in between, women is fine, and that it's an accepted term, and it's something that regardless of the getting in the weeds of like biological and scientific this and that, we're dealing with somebody's personal preferences and their feelings towards somebody. So I have no problem adjusting my language to be like, okay, women, I guess. So I hopefully that's a lot of words that hopefully answered your question a little bit and helped to kind of clear it up.
It does. It does. And like so my and I get why, you know what I'm saying, like, you know, when you were explaining stuff like that, it makes sense to everybody. But for me, it's so where does that line where does that line stop, and where does that line, like, it, you know, because if now what the sense is that if anything makes someone uncomfortable, you can eliminate it from your previous you know, understanding or there, because this is like, this is now we're going into the defined words that it are could be used in slang terminology, but technically they were used initially as just descriptions or categorization of the male and female species of whatever the species is, but it was just a categorization. So now
the article I think addresses that point really well. So it's like, if you really do like the word female, and I'm not talking to you, but you in general, if you really do like the word females, you want to use that, then say female human. If you really want that to be part of your lexicon, part of your vernacular, then the other day I was walking by and I saw this female human walking down the street like that. You got, because grammatically, like they were saying, it doesn't make any sense because you're saying a female what. So the article addresses that really well, and I think that point in itself is enough to be like, all right, well, I need to adjust my language so it doesn't sound. And that's where the connection to the slang comes in, because obviously we know that slang doesn't always have to make sense grammatically, but because our understanding of how this slang term has affected people and how we've seen it be used in negative ways and stuff like that, then, you know, it's cool to adjust our language a little bit and, you know, go to something that's just a little bit more accepted. You brought up the point of where does it stop? A lot of times that I don't necessarily get down with the slippery slope argument, only because it's an argument that's often used to slow progress on many, many fronts. So it's, you know, you give black people the right to vote, then what? Gay people can get married, and then what? Where do we stop? You know what I mean? It's like those kinds of very vague hypothetical arguments tend to just stop the conversation in its tracks, because then you have people just kind of imagining all these scenarios that, yeah, what if we can get into all kinds of crazy scenarios about where this could possibly go? It's like it's a probability storm, to use a quantum mania sort of thing. So that part I just kind of stay away from. What's up?
Well, I mean, in essence, and based on what you just said, aren't we stopping the conversation though the same way when basically the article said, I said to my husband, this makes me feel like this, and then that was it. There was never any like real dialogue there. It was just, I said what I said, he accepted it, and we had a good day. And that's kind of what that's like. That's literally stopping the you know,
that's not stopping the discussion. That's resolving the issue. That's there was something that was said. I let him know that I had an issue with it. We had a conversation about it. And he's like, oh, okay, I get it. And now I'm going to move forward. That is an entire conversation. That is beginning, conflict resolution. Now we've learned lessons and we can move forward. Whereas saying something like, well, then where does it stop, is not meant to add anything to a value to the conversation, or it's not meant to really like, if you really want to do some thought exercises, then you got to dig deeper into those thoughts. You can't just be like, well, you know, here's I'm going to open this hypothetical door to wherever you want to go with it, and then I'm going to let whatever biases or prejudices or preconceived notions you have take control of that conversation. So in this case, where does it stop? Where does it end? It's a slippery slope. Those are obstacles in a conversation, because then you're just veering off course. You're not doing anything really to bring any kind of new knowledge or new understanding to the situation.
It's like a whataboutism almost. Let me cross the full range of this spectrum. But thank y'all for giving me some time to digest. literally. But when I hear the term female, the first thing that comes to my mind is the movie Friday.
Yeah.
Where Craig confronts Debo because Debo slaps the shit out of Felicia. And Craig comes to Felicia's rescue and says, "Man, Debo, that's a female." You know what I'm saying? Man, what is she? What is she? You know what I'm saying? And in that moment, two things happen. Number one, I feel like it's a timestamp on the cultural vernacular that we were using in that time, in which it wasn't necessarily being explored the possibility that this word may be hurtful or derogatory towards young ladies. So it shows that this is a mainstream, extremely popular, some would call a cult classic movie, where this term wasn't used in I would feel that some could say, yes, there is I mean, the fact that he's like, that's a female, as if she's not strong enough, you know, and that makes it okay to call her female because she couldn't stick up for herself. Some could use that argument like, well, yeah, why he couldn't just say, yo, that's a person. You know what I'm saying? Yo, Debo, Debo, what the hell? It had nothing to do with her being a woman or a female, as he called it. It was the fact that he hit somebody, period. And that was unnecessary. But the fact that it did happen in that cult classic movie Friday in such a public and widely accepted way, because I don't remember any forum saying, I can't believe Craig called Felicia a female and all this other stuff. For me, that's just indicative of the fact that in that time frame, in the 90s, it wasn't, for me, my take on the word female was that it was likened to dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, he's a dude, she's a female. You know what I'm saying? And even in our, I don't know, we've all had some sort of experimentation in music. You know, I think Ty was a singer and Tyrone was an opera singer, and I did some rap stuff and
no, that's my brother. I'm the smooth R&B singer. I'm gonna drop the panties.
I'm sorry.
Drop the panties on these females.
On these females. Let me stop.
I had to.
I'm sorry. I take it back. It was a joke. It was a bad joke too. So don't cover me. But my point is, in that moment, in that 1994 release of Friday, what we saw was on display Black culture, not only in Chris Tucker wearing khakis and Chucks and in California culture where they're wearing button-down shirts with Debo and Craig, but also in our vernacular where we said shit like this nigga that, female, you know what I'm saying? You know, calling it weed instead of like gas like we do nowadays. And there were a whole bunch of time-stamped cultural references. So I say that to say that for me, when I had to learn to back up off of that statement, it was hard because it for me was simply a way of referring to a woman and not meant to be derogatory. I didn't have, in my heart, there was not the intention of saying, yo, you're a lower class, lesser person, and therefore I'm referring to you as a female. For me, it was like me being like, yo, that's my, when I moved to Florida, Tyrone, I almost got in a fight on one of the first days I got here because a motherfucker called me dog. I was like, who the fuck is you talking to? He's like, you, dog. I was like, you keep calling me this dog. I ain't nobody's dog, bro. And him and his boy kept laughing. They're like, yo, dog. I'm like, who the fuck is your dog? I'm not your goddamn dog. You know what I'm saying? They just would not stop laughing at me. They thought it was so funny that I was so angry that they was calling me dog. They're like, Vince, chill, bro. It's DAWG. I'm not calling you a pit bull. It's just a term of endearment. It's like calling you a friend. I'm like, nah, we don't do that where I'm from, bro. We don't call each other dogs. Like, that's not cool with me. Don't call me no dog. Years later, I'm like, yeah, what up, dog? Like, I adopted, you know what I'm saying? I assimilated to Florida culture. But it was a misunderstanding of cultures. You know what I'm saying? In St. Louis, we did not use the term dog. You know what I'm saying? We just did not. It wasn't a thing. So I learned that it wasn't meant to be derogatory, but still it came across that way. Now, I'm not saying that should forgive men for doing it, because ultimately I think that it is a cultural and even slightly generational thing. You know what I'm saying? But for folks like Ty and I, we come from a school where if you listen to Redman, Method Man, Jay-Z, if you listen to even, like old school Snoop, Like you gonna hear, I was walking up and this female was looking fly. In Chicago, they would say fee. They shortened it from female to fee. Yo, I was chilling with this badass fee. Like Twista used the word fee so often in their lyrics. So I think that there's a generational gap there. But having said that, we've kind of been here before where I said, if you ever find yourself saying, why are they shoving this down my throat? If you ever find yourself saying, oh man, I remember back when we used to be able to, then you may be in a dominant culture and not even realizing it. And I think that as males, if it's okay for me to say,
male humans.
Yeah,
male humans.
I think that as men, we often are blind to how much of a patriarchy we live in which we are still given benefits of the doubt and given advantages because of our gender. Yeah. And so to that, I say this, if you're addressing someone that is not of the same gender, culture, or of the same makeup as you, and they have preferences on how they'd like to be addressed, in this day and age, I have opted the notion of listening to them and abiding by what's more comfortable for them. And I use the simile of Black as it pertains to what we refer to each other as. All right, because it changes with the person. Some people will cuss you out for calling them Black. They're like, look, no, I'm African American. Don't call me Black. Some people like, I'm not African American. My people are from the Caribbean. We're not from America at all. Some people will be like, nah. I don't. And then I remember I used to work at the movies. Spoiler alert. It's one of the reasons why I'm in the movies. And there was this old, maybe I shouldn't say old. There was this more much. There was an older. He's an old ass man. I'm gonna tell you, an old white man. His name was Gene, and this shit was hilarious.
He's elderly, damn it. You don't call him old, he's elderly.
Bro, he got to come for me. Look, I'm sorry, bro. He ain't around no way. He dead. You know what I'm saying? Come for me, Gene. I'll see you in the second level heaven. But he must have been in his like 70s or 80s, and I was 16 at the time. I was working in the movie theater. I was cleaning up one of the movies. My mom and my pop and my little sister had come up to see a movie, and they asked Gene if they had seen me. They said, have you seen my son Vince? And Gene was like, oh, the colored guy? To a Black man. You know what I'm saying? Like, but coming from Gene's generation, colored is probably one of the more appropriate phrases rather than what they used to use in his circles. So it's like, it's a weird dynamic of kind of trying to move forward, but not necessarily doing it from the perspective of the person that you're addressing. You know what I'm saying? If that makes any sense. Like Gene thought in his head, coming from the circles he was probably in, he was being polite by saying colored. You know, because there's a whole bunch of other shit he could have said. Oh, you mean the Negro? Oh, the dark guy, the darkie, you know, or even other N-words that I'm sure had been floated around his circle. But in that particular instance, my dad, when he came to me and told me, he was like, man, he's like, the dude just, he's like, do you know Gene? I was like, yeah, Gene, he's cool. He's like, I asked him where you were, and he didn't know who you were talking. He didn't know your name. He said, oh, you mean the colored guy? I was like, you said what? He was like, yeah. And then we kind of laughed about it because we both knew that Gene ain't gonna be around that much longer anyway, you know. And he come from a different generation where, you know, so for me now, when I heard it from my wife, and we argued over it, you know, just like this couple did, which I honestly believe that she's being probably candid. I mean, she's probably not giving us all the details because, you know, I doubt that the dude was just like, oh, all right. It was probably like, but man,
no, why is that hard to believe? That's not hard to believe. I think once you've been in a relationship and you know who your woman is, you know to pick and choose your battles. You know, like if this is one that I don't really feel like arguing about, I'll be like, okay, man, all right, no problem. You're right. Thanks for telling me that. I appreciate you. And he's probably walking off like, man, I dodged that one. You know what I mean? Like, he was saying, like, for real.
No, I think you were talking about kind of like dismantling systems and you know, kind of when you're in the dominant group, and it's true. These conversations, while they seem sort of like, a lot of people roll their eyes at these conversations because like here's a word that offends people and stuff like that. So people start rolling their eyes and they start to be like, why are we doing this? But really, it is a bigger thing that's happening because yes, we know that this has been a male-dominated society for quite some time. That there have been many efforts, whether they be systemic or individual or cultural, that have been used to hold women down, to to oppress women in different ways. Anything that challenges or changes that system is going to feel uncomfortable, especially if you're in the person who's benefited. If you're in the group that benefits the most from it, you're going to be like, oh shit, they're taking something from me, because it feels like when people get closer to your level of privilege or your level of comfort in the world, that like you from a position of power, a lot of people look at it as when people get closer to them, that they're moving backwards. It's like, nah, it's just everybody else catching up. It's everybody else finally getting a piece of the pie. So
right.
So when we have conversations like this, I always think of it as let me help this whole thing just move forward. Let's move the entire field up an inch. And just like, I'm fine with changing my language. Did I understand when I was using females as a general term to describe women? Did I understand it as anything else other than just another word that I was using to describe somebody? No, I had no malice in my heart or anything like that. But then when I listened to women, and when I noticed how it affected the women in my life, and then I would see how they would react, or if I would hear their conversations, I'm like, oh, okay, it's a very simple thing for me not to say this, and for women to just not have to deal with that feeling coming from me. And if I can help them not feel that feeling coming from anybody, I'll definitely do that, like that kind of thing. So it does. The biggest thing about the culture war as it's being fought right now is it's being fought on these battlefields of like, here's a word that you used to use that was totally fine, and now just because somebody decided, now it's not fine anymore. Doesn't that make you mad? That is the whole crux of the culture war as it's being used to try to stop progress right now. And so anytime I can help to stop that train of thought, I will absolutely do that, because I know that ultimately we'll all be better for it. And even and this will even go to the question of, is a slippery slope, and where does it stop, and then what now? Well, where does it stop? It'll stop at everybody having decency and respect for each other. Just being able to understand that we're like, oh, okay, like we can be like, hey, I don't like the way this makes me feel. Oh, well, I don't want to make you feel that way. Oh, okay, well, cool, perfect.
Yeah. That's the hard part, though. Is I think that the comparison that I laid out there, where Gene thought that he was being respectful by calling me colored, he may have in his head been like, but all I did was call him colored, right. And we're sitting here like, but yeah, we don't even want to be called colored, Gene, you know what I'm saying? And he has to accept the fact. Let me just, put this up here, make sure you like, share, comment.
Real quick question. Did your dad was just kind of like, he messed up and he just kind of moved on or whatever, or did your dad say anything to Gene?
Nah, my dad laughed it off. Yeah. He was like, you know what I'm saying? He just gave me like, it just was like, all right, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And I think at that point he was just, if it had been some young, like to the opposite end of that spectrum, and I'm glad you asked, is when my dad, he told me the story about when he first came down to Albany, where he met my mom. They met at Albany State University, which used to be Albany State College, which of weird side note, recently recruited a white dude who used the N-word in rap lyrics and got and was ousted from the school he originally was at, and so that's like controversial. But anyway, he told me a story about, like, he's from St. Louis. My mom is from Georgia. He's from St. Louis. I grew up in St. Louis. And in St. Louis is extremely segregated, you know what I'm saying? So like, you got the black people on this side of town and the white people on the outer rim, excluding like South County, Hazelwood, other different places, Florissant is a little more black, but it's very territorial. And so my dad didn't normally cross over into those white realms unless he had to for work or whatever. So they didn't have, I think he even though there was definitely racial issues, he often tells me the story about, the white buses would drive through the black neighborhoods and would shout obscenities at the black people as they drove by, but they would just be like, whatever, them crackling on some of that. Excuse me, I'm not even saying about that. But he often I remember he told me this story about when he first came down to Georgia, and some little 7-year-old white girl, when he pulled up to the gas station and he goes up inside and she's sitting on the car outside and she pointed at him, she's like, nigga. You know what I'm saying? And he looked at her as a little white girl and looked back at her and was like, nigga. It's like saying it back to her. You know what I'm saying? It was like this grown ass 20-something-year-old black man is now like getting into an argument with this 7-year-old who's being indoctrinated into believing that black people are N-words. And now fast forward that 20 years later, where he's in front of this old white man who's saying colored. And I guess just it just was this the humor of it was just like, it wasn't worth the fight. I'm not going to fight this old man over, him trying to come up, and he just told me about it. And we just kind of accepted it as like, all right, whatever, hey, look, these white folks crazy. But I have seen him go off multiple times on things that were perceived as racist, especially like in stores where we weren't given good customer service, at restaurants where we were, told to wait when we saw other people sat before us. My pops would not shy away from kicking racism in his ass when it's necessary. But this was a particular incident where I didn't think it was. So, I mean, I guess the moral of the story for me is when addressing people that do not identify as whatever you identify as, I'm cautious because I don't know what it's like to be in their shoes. Ty, remember we used to work, that's how me and Ty met.
Speaking of shoes.
I don't know what the reference is, but
no, because you said because you haven't walked in their shoes, and never mind. I was trying to do a Vince Taylor segue, and never mind.
Yeah,
that's why it's a Vince Taylor segue, and not.
I thought I was like shoes, tied shoes. Okay, all right, there's something there. But I don't know if you remember, there was a. I'm going to be careful about this. There was she said she was a girl, but she called herself Austin. All right. Now on the paper she turned in and her ID and social, it said Amber, right? But she wanted to be referred to as Austin. Okay. So this is before the word transgender was really a thing. So she was, at the time, I think she wanted to be called Austin because she was more, what's the proper term? Like she was a woman that exerted what some may consider masculine energy, if that even is a thing. You know what I'm saying? Whatever that means. You know what I'm saying? And but she also called herself gay. She considered herself to be a lesbian, right? Mm-hmm. And this is before gay marriage was mainstream and widely accepted. And I remember, and this is before my growth spurt, in the realm of kind of understanding and being more open towards cultures that I didn't necessarily. I mean, this is also when I was a true believer in the Bible and all these other things, and to throw that in people's faces and Adam and Eve, not Steve. And so she says, all I want to do is get married. Like, I don't see what the big deal about me getting married is. If I have somebody that I love and we love each other, then why shouldn't I be able to be at their deathbed if they go to the hospital? Why shouldn't I be able to be on their insurance? Stuff like that. And I did this thing that Tyrone just basically called out, which was not to be like, well, if we do that, then what? I was like, oh, okay. So if you can marry, if gay people can marry each other, then why can't people marry dogs? And I said something extremely ignorant. I'm just keeping it real. I'm calling myself out. And I just remember the look on her face, and just like, it wasn't like an angry look. It was a defeated look. It was like a defeated, like these motherfuckers just don't get it. And it's not even worth me trying to spar about it, because he just does not have the comprehension level of what it is that he's talking about. He's addressing it from his understanding, not my understanding. And I held that viewpoint until I came to the realization that I was completely wrong, that I was outside of my scope, that I was being bigoted, honestly, about something that I wasn't fully understanding. And I started to just have a more forward-thinking mindset as a person.
How did you get there? How did you get to that point?
Okay, you know what it was for me? there was 3 realizations because of people that I knew in my life. One of them who comes to our podcast, who actually tunes in sometimes. One of my best friends, actually, we kind of cousins now because our cousins got married to each other, which is weird. But one of my best friends from childhood that I grew up with, he always had what we used to call like an effeminate type of affect, you know what I'm saying, so to speak. But I didn't know, I'm as a kid, I don't know what that is. I just know this is my friend. I go to his house, we play Atari, we play ColecoVision, we build forts, we watch movies that we have no business watching when his parents is asleep. And we have fun. Him and his brother, we're all just good friends. But his brother is like a Kappa. His pops before he passed was like a manly man, gym man. Even his mom to this day is still very scarily, not masculine, but like fiery. Like this is one of the few people that beat me.
Whoop your ass.
Whoop your ass. Mom whooped me.
You can always tell when you've been whooped by somebody else's parents when you start. They were scary. Remember that one time she grabbed me and whipped me all in one with the same hand. I don't know how she did it.
I was shoplifting. She took us around to some stores, and I was putting stuff in my pocket. I didn't even have a pocket. This is how my dumb ass got caught. Those shorts we used to wear with the white stripe on the sides. You know what I'm saying? It's like the short, they used to be the NBA shorts back in the day, but not then before Allen Iverson made them come down to the knee. I had those, and I was sticking stuff in my pants because I had no pockets. And we got back to her house. I got out the car, and all that shit came out. All that shit came out of my pants. And she looked down. She was like, "Did you steal all this stuff?" And I was just like, And she pulled me around the back of the car. She took a belt, and she beat. Now she didn't hurt. It didn't hurt. I'm gonna keep it real. It didn't hurt. It was obvious that she had to teach me a lesson, but didn't want the smoke of like, you beat my child type thing, even though back in that time it was probably acceptable. But my point is, she wasn't nothing to fuck with. And so then I started realizing as a grown person, now in my 20s, 30s, I still kick it with Mark. Every time I go back to St. Louis, is one of the first places I go is back to U City. I go right down 8 Deuce, and I turn down Appleton, and I head right on up Fernwood, and I sit and I kick it with my boy, and he has that affect, and he has never once in our lives introduced me or brought up a woman counterpart or even a male counterpart for that matter, and as opposed to his brother who's been
male
married.
Human counterpart.
Human counterpart, or any counterpart, whatever floats your boat. But it started to dawn on me that perhaps he could be fearful of being honest with himself, which is none of his business. Not honest with or being outwardly declarative of his orientation, which he doesn't have to be. I'm not trying to say, bro, what the fuck are you? Tell me. But in my head, I started to process, what if he is of this persuasion? And I thought, okay, him and his brother grew up in the same household, same parents, same upbringing. One of them ends up getting married, gets divorced, has a bunch of kids. One of them still a womanizer to an extent. And here's another one that's a completely different way. But there's not like one of them had some traumatic experience and made them one way or another. I was like, that's just how he's been all his life. You know what I'm saying? I've seen it since. I'm not talking about like I knew him from like 5 or 10. Like I'm talking about like birth. Like there's pictures of us in diapers. You know what I'm saying? Together. So it just started to dawn on me. And then I thought about there's another young man that I came to know who was a friend of our family. I will say his name. Ain't no point in saying his name. But his mom and pops were close friends of my family. They think they went to the same church or whatever. And the father was a gym teacher and a basketball coach, what we used to call a manly man, so to speak. And his mom was the sweetest lady. but he is flamboyantly, like, I'm talking about, like, and I know I probably shouldn't even say that, but he is outwardly proud. Let me just put it like that. You know what I'm saying? Like he's probably, I mean, he does drag, you know what I'm saying? He does these type of things. And I've known that young man from when he was I'm talking about like toddler age. And now to see him like not be as afraid as he probably was. I mean, it's one of those things where we kind of, you know, when you say like, oh, you kind of knew, like when Tevin Campbell came out, we was like, came out. You know what I'm saying? It was like, what is you talking about, Tevin? Like, you know what's up? Even though that's borderline probably bad as well. But when he kind of, you know, got to graduate from college and all that stuff, and he was no longer willing to shelter or like to hide or closet himself. He outwardly came to, I think it was my dad's 40th or some celebration he had. And he, you know, he was, you know, loud, proud, you know, pink scarf with the high heels, you know, whatever. And I just realized, I was like, this is not the product of trauma. You know, this isn't something that, you know, and I just was like, yo, maybe there is some truth to people just being who they are because that's who they are. You know, I'm not saying it's all 100% of the time genetic, because the dudes that I was locked up with were not born that way. I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't think, you know, some of them, I don't, maybe they were, but some of them just told me straight up, like, look, bro, if I'm gonna be here for life, I'm gonna get you some pussy, whether it's with a man or a woman. You know what I'm saying? I was like, okay, all right, that's your business. But it was that realization, like when I just took a moment and just looked back and was like, this doesn't really make sense. Like for me to sit here and try to make it seem like these people are choosing to be something that is so that brings so much vitriol to them intentionally, as opposed to them just wanting to be their natural selves. And it's not always because they were touched or they were molested or because such and such. They could just be this way because that's their natural way of sense. And I had to come to grips with that, which made me more comfortable with the notion that people should be able to be whatever their bodies, minds, and souls say that they are all of the time, and not just when they're in private. And I think that just evolved over time, bro. It didn't happen immediately. And I think that there was a cross section of life where I kind of started to lose faith, but gain more understanding for humanity, you know, because they were kind of difficult to keep in the same, you know, it's kind of hard to, I still don't understand how a lot of like diehard Christians are able to like bridge those, you know, to bridge those cultures where, yes, I'm a diehard Christian, you should be who you want to, even though my Bible tells me that you're an abomination and that, you know, you're going to burn in hell for, you know, for so on and so forth, and that you're all pedophiles and blah, blah, blah. So that's what it was for me, man. It was just like a realization over time that this wasn't something that sprouted out of nowhere. This wasn't something that was a result for these two instances. And these are just two of a few of them that I'm bringing up. But these two instances that I point to mainly when I think about my evolution in this thought process were instances in which I knew the parents, I knew the upbringing. I was completely, now I don't know everything that happened in their lives. You know, I could have missed elements, but in the term, mainly for my boy in St. Louis, who I love to death, and I will go to bat for. And every time I go home, you know, we go to a Cards game, we hit Union City, you know, we burn out, you know, we had the best of times. I cannot look at him and I cannot harbor any hatred towards him or whatever his internal struggle is, because he has honestly been the most consistent, one of the most consistent people in my life. He is the same way he is today that he was when we were, you know, toddlers. And I just don't see any reason other than that's who he actually is. And that's not uncommon. Back in the day, we used to have things called androgynous, and we'd call men effeminate. And there were people that existed like that, you know, and it just so happens that perhaps maybe we've been expecting them to be what makes us more comfortable rather than allowing them to be what they are, which is the most comfortable thing for them to be. All right. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah.
You're on mute, Ty.
Oh.
I was gonna say Ty threw his hand up.
I done talked him to sleep, man.
Nah, I was like, yeah, you did what I didn't realize it was gonna. Yeah, but so I was basically trying to get you to say what you finally said, which was that you gained understanding.
Yeah.
And I want to speak to this because Tyrone was saying earlier that one of the things that causes us to get into these like these positions where we're not really moving the needle, we're just kind of staying in our own space of understanding, is because we those people like myself who ask for understanding, but then when you get into these discussions, sometimes that is the trigger mechanism that causes that stuff not to move. It's because when you're like, well, I lack understanding, but the person who's telling you is not wanting you to really understand, they're wanting you to accept. And it's like, I want to accept, but I'm one of those people that also does use logic a lot of time to come to my conclusions. So like when there's this stagnant movement of me wanting understanding, but you not giving understanding and feeling challenged when I ask for understanding, that's where a lot of times these conversations end. And like, so the person who's on the outside who's saying, let me gain a little understanding, but doesn't seem as though they're not understanding, but they're receiving what it is that the person is saying as far as how it affects them emotionally and physically. That part is where I think the disconnect lies, because I think when I come and I'm like, yo, I just want to understand this better, but then you feel as though I'm not listening because I didn't accept initially what it was you said, because I'm still over here trying to understand it and grasp it. That's and I mean, does that sound about like where most people kind of get held up, Tyrone, is on the where I'm over here asking for understanding, but then the person is feeling like we're invalidating their feelings and emotion because we're trying to add context to what it is they're saying.
I guess the question I would ask is, what exactly are you trying to understand? Are you trying to understand why the things you thought before are wrong, and like, does that make me somebody who was bigoted or whatever? And this is just generally speaking, does that make me wrong? Does it make me somebody on the wrong side of things? Or are you trying to understand this other person's feelings and this other person's perspective and stuff like that? So I think what happens is people get into sort of a defensive stance when they're challenged on something that they have that has been a part of their entire life. So when we're told if you're somebody who in this case, if you're somebody who used females to describe women and there were like no malice, nothing like that, no derogatory or anything, and then somebody was like, yeah, we don't like that, and you're like, wait a minute, you're like, now I'm challenged, and I'm like, I feel like I've just been told that this whole time I've been a piece of shit, so I need to understand how I'm a piece of shit. That understanding is what is the obstacle, because nobody's saying that like, because you used this at some point and under a different circumstance, whether it's slang or whether it's just a lack of knowledge of the other side, whatever, because you use this, you are wrong and bad. That is the sort of it's like a red herring almost, because that's not even part of the conversation until our feelings start to get in there, right? So we're like, well, shit, now this whole time have I been a piece of shit? I need to understand why I was a piece of shit. Please tell me so I can reckon with this internally and figure out whether or not like I need to make some changes. Nobody's going to be able to convince you're a piece of shit, because it's not even part of the conversation anyway. You know what I mean? So if you're looking to understand the other person's perspective and what they feel and what they're going through and stuff, that's a much easier thing to a much easier goal and a much easier thing to accomplish, because then it's listening and it's giving somebody the chance to kind of tell their story and understand. And then if you can understand their perspective, or you can understand what they're going through. It might help to reach that conclusion part of the problem. So it's like, in the article, dude says females, she's like, I don't like that. And then we don't know their conversation, but based on the way it was presented to us, she was like, I don't like that. And he was like, oh, okay. Tell me about, what it is that you don't like about that. Oh, okay. Well, now I understand better and we can move forward, whatever. But what we didn't hear from this article, and again, we don't know the conversation, what we didn't hear is he said females. I told him I don't like that. He said, but I've been saying that my whole life and it's never been a problem and blah, blah, blah. We didn't hear that part of it. No. So it's, I always challenge, especially when we're moving towards progress. I challenge people to ask themselves hard questions. So what is it that I'm trying to understand? Like even when Vince was talking about him coming to certain conclusions about the sexuality of his friend and like stuff like that. I was listening to that conversation. I was hearing those as like the beginning of your journey, and you're still very much learning and very much evolving. So I don't know how you feel right now, but my biggest epiphanies have come from realizing that is not my world to understand. And the only thing I need to do is make sure that I'm not making it harder for this person to live and be and exist.
Yo, can I real quick chime in with one of my favorite shows in the early 2000s was the show by Trey Parker and Matt Stone called South Park. Right? Yeah. And I still love this show. I heard that they just rebooted it. I'm not caught up on it. I haven't seen like the last dozen seasons, but I'll never forget the Token episode, where Token, I don't know if y'all are familiar with the cast of South Park, but Token, ironically enough, is the black.
He is the token black character.
It's Token. His name is Token. It's so fucked up, but it is what it is. And I think it was either Kenny or Stan. I can't remember which one of them. But Token was trying to kind of explain to I think it was Kenny. Not Kenny. Excuse me, Kyle. He's like, look, bro. And Kyle was like, I understand why black people, feel a certain way. I mean, this because this is because that, it's because this is because that. And Token was like, Kyle, you don't get it, bro. And he's like, what? And like the whole episode, Kyle like reads books and he'll like watch Roots, and then he'll come to Token and be like, Token, I finally get it, bro. I get it. It's because there was slavery and and then you're treated really bad and what I'm saying. And so that's why and then Token will be like, bro, you just don't get it, man. You don't get it. And he's like, what the fuck you mean I don't get it? Like I read the books, I did that, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, and he just keeps walking away. And he's like, he's not understanding because like Token's trying not to hang out with him no more. And he's like, I just don't understand why Token doesn't want to fuck with me. And he keeps coming to him multiple times throughout the episode and trying to like declare his comprehension of Token's plight. And it wasn't until the end of the episode that Token that Kyle goes up to Token and he goes, Token, I think I get it. I don't get it. He's like, exactly. and then they got it wrong. He's like, it's the understanding of the fact that you will not understand and cannot understand is what I want you to understand. Stop trying to just easily make it something that, if I just get it, then I can adopt. You're never going to get it because you're who you are. I'm who I am. We have completely different experiences, completely different cultures, completely different, a whole lot. And so it's not important. It's not as important that you get it because you want to know or understand. What's more important is that you understand that you will never understand how I feel internally and just adopt or address me or work with me in the manner that I want to be worked as. And that was, South Park, we have a little gems like that as stupid of a show it is. And as completely politically incorrect. Like I also love the show where Token, like they were trying to drive his family out of town and they're like,
kept calling them Richers.
Yeah, the rich people.
The Richers.
Because Token's family got money and they're like, we can't stand those people.
We don't want these Richers in our neighborhood. Yeah.
So that I thought was a brilliant episode, man. But that's kind of how it is. Like we don't even see how stupid, silly, and completely outside of the fray we are. And I think that's one of the things to kind of move this conversation forward a little bit is that this young lady, Mel Mitch, has tapped into. This is a running skit that she uses. That's called
before you jump on, Tyzan jumped up. I don't.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah, I just wanted to add like, so because and again, I think this is one of those things where what we were talking about, and I want to kind of stay in the realm of the female versus women conversation that we were on, because I feel like sexuality is very vague. It's a different conversation because it doesn't, like, sexuality, we know that it can exist in a lot of different phases, and it's definitely open to interpretation. But I'm speaking to a word that has been defined, many years ago, as far as describing and categorizing different versions of a species, whether it be female, whether it be male of that particular species. And what I'm gathering by this conversation is that we're at the point in our society where almost everything can be open to interpretation. So if a word like female causes me, or male, if at some point the word male makes me uncomfortable, then we now have we can now have a conversation about the word male as opposed to the word female in this conversation. Yes,
yeah, I do want to just. So, does the word male make you uncomfortable?
It doesn't make me particularly uncomfortable.
All right, it's good. So, what I want to do is try to make sure we're talking about like things that like exist, and like try to stay away from hypothetical situations, because that's where the conversations get lost in the weeds. So, to the point about females just being an existing word for very long, and it's what the way we used it colloquially and in the slang and stuff was technically wrong, because like it was pointed out in the article, grammatically it makes no sense, right? We use it for slang, and and that's just kind of how slang is. I guess I'll just ask directly, because I think we're locked in a semantic argument that probably wouldn't even play itself out in a real situation. So I'll just ask some direct questions to you. So let's and I, I've heard people say female, and I'm just like, okay, that's just the word that they use. So let's say you, I will get into hypotheticals right now, just so I can suss out something. So if you use the word females and you're talking to a woman and she's like, I don't like that word. Are you saying fuck off, I don't care? Or are you saying, oh, okay, I won't use that word again?
No, I'm going to ask the question, well, why don't you like the word females? What is it about the word females that offends you? I'm going to ask those questions because I want to gain understanding in that moment. And I think a lot of times, like, the conversation is shut down at that moment, because if we go by the article's basically what she's saying is, I told my husband, he accepted it, and we moved on. Mm-hmm. But this conversation doesn't always go that way when I have conversations outside of my husband with men. And then she went into, why it is that she feels like men shouldn't use the word female to describe women, and she used because it's an adjective and it describes this and da. And then she went up, and I don't have everything.
So the grammatical argument of it doesn't move you at all. You're like that I don't buy that. That's that argument didn't move my needle.
Well, no, yes, I feel like that didn't, because now what I'm also hearing that it's attached along with it is that it became slang and it's colloquial. My question would be, well, at what point does it become slang? When we say it, when Black people say it, because female's been used throughout the history of man, up until and not even just that, even on a entertainment scale. The word female was used in Revenge of the Nerds, all of these like we can go back really far and talk about all of the times it's been used within movies and everything like that to describe women. But when we say it as Black people, it then becomes slang, and it becomes used as a term of not necessarily endearment, but just a different way. And that's why I'm wondering, how does how is it defined within it culturally? So are we saying because black people used it because Craig used it in a movie and said females, you know what I'm saying? And he kind of like really emphasized the word females. Now it becomes a slang word as opposed to all of the times it was used in other movies. That's what I'm
So see the way I approach this type of conversation. So I differ from your reaction in the way where if somebody, like if I use the word females and I'm talking to a woman and she's like, yeah, I don't really like when people use that word to define women. I was like, okay, cool. That's like, my thing is, okay, if you don't like, here I am talking to you, I don't want you to feel uncomfortable. And it doesn't, like, I don't give it, like, I just said that because that's habit and it's just like what I'm used to saying or whatever, but I'm happy to not. That's my thing. Cause all I need to know is that this word and what it's attached to it makes you feel a certain way. And I don't want you to feel that way. I guess my next question to you is, what is it that you're looking for that will make you say, oh, okay, that's enough for me on the word female. I don't have to use that. Is it like, because what happens with these types of arguments, when we get into semantic arguments, whether it's about sexuality or race, or there's this sort of invisible goalpost that just kind of moves as it needs to move to protect the position of the to protect the position of tradition, or just kind of this is how it's been forever. Because there's like, I don't know what it is it's going to take for you to say, oh, okay, yeah, it makes sense that would upset some people. Therefore, at least around those people, I'm fine with not using it.
Well, I think for me, I think again, anytime you can have a conversation and you can kind of explain whatever your theory is, and kind of get to that point of understanding, I think that always bodes well for anybody in any conversation. Because if we're just saying this makes me feel a certain way, I'll give you an example of it. I could easily say, if I came to your house and colors in your house made me uncomfortable, are you going to change the colors in your house because they make me uncomfortable? You can't do that. So I'm just saying, like,
I will say that's I just because I don't want to get too deep in the weeds. That's a false equivalency, and it's not productive for the conversation. You see what I'm saying? It's like, because right now what we're arguing is the semantics about an argument. Like we're not even now talking about people anymore. We're just talking about we're just doing sort of this thing where there's no end in sight, because we can constantly bring up little examples of semantic arguments that will forever have us in this moment.
No, you're right. But at the same time, I feel like the only way to understand that, the only way that I'm getting understanding within this conversation is that as long as I accept it. If I accept and move on, then everything is cool. But you're not validating my feelings at that moment. In that moment, so at that moment, I have to validate your feelings and make sure that you're okay.
I guess I would ask, what are your feelings? Like when somebody says, like, let's say we'll work this out. We'll do some role playing. So here's the situation. Here's the scene. I'm a woman. You just used the word females. I said to you, I don't really like the word females being used to describe women. What are you feeling in that moment?
Well, like, my feelings in that moment is female. The word female is describing the women. Is a word that is used to describe women in the human species. So I don't understand why you would be offended by me using the word female, which is by definition describing what you are in the human species.
And so, do you need to understand why I'm offended for you to not offend me?
Well, I would need to know that. I mean, I guess, yeah. In that sense, yeah. If you feel offended, I want to know how I offended you, why I offended, or why you feel offended, because that wasn't my intention. So at that moment, then I'm like, oh well, if you were offended, that wasn't my intention. But what is it about the word female that offends you so much?
Okay, so I just want to point out real quick that we're back to what I was talking about earlier, where it's intentions. Am I a piece of shit because I said this? What is it? Like right now, you're dealing with the feeling of not necessarily I don't want to offend this person, but I didn't mean to offend this person. Why are they offended right now? You know what I mean? So you're trying to make that connection. Yeah, and that's where you're stuck, right?
Yeah.
What if I told you, I know you didn't mean to offend me. I just let you know that word makes me feel a certain way, and I'd rather just not hear it. Is that enough?
I would probably at that point dead the conversation, yeah, because we're not gonna gain any. At that point, if I've already asked you, you know, straight up, what is it about the word that offends you, and then you come back and you give me another question to the question that I've already asked, then I know at that point there's no point in me asking, because you don't really have a defined reason why the word offends you, or you just don't want to share with me why the word offends you. Either way, at that point, you know, it's not moving in any direction, and that's what I was saying. As opposed to, because I'm speaking in regards to a lot of people that are in this mind state of, well, I don't understand why these things are being taken away. Why can't we say female? Why can't we say women are women or whatever, or men are men or whatever? So when you get to this point, you're like, okay, if I can gain some understanding, then not only do I understand better for myself, but when I get into a conversation of explaining this to my children or explaining this to someone else, then I have more resources to kind of pull from. Like, oh, I talked to somebody. This is why it was offensive to them. And I kind of understood it. And here now I can now translate what I was able to take from that to this situation. But if I don't get any understanding, and I've just come and we're having a conversation, and I say, hey, I was talking to my friend the other day, and they don't like being called a female. And they said, well, why not? I don't know. It just is very offensive to them.
So you want to be convinced not to offend people. What would convince you?
Well, let me chime in here real quick, because this is cyclical. I think there's two different approaches here, and Tyrone is approaching it as he does so well from an empathetic approach, which embodies understanding or the lack thereof, but considers that it's insignificant whether he understands or not, because what's most important is that I don't offend you. Ty, as long as I've known him, has more of an analytical approach, which is like, okay, look, I'm cool with not calling you female, no big deal, I ain't tripping, but why? You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. See, I don't know if Ty is cool with not using a word. You know what I mean?
Well, you might be right. Let me finish this point though. Okay. So I think that the problem here for me is that it's more of the comfort level of the offender than the offended that is coming from Ty's approach, which is kind of what, for me, as somebody who feels like I'm in between the two of you with regard to my empathetic and analytical sense, I find myself on the end of the offended side more often, as that I identify as a blurred instead of a nerd, and folks are constantly coming at me like, why does it matter what the race is? Why do you have to, consider? Why does it have to be about race? And then I find myself deciding whether or not it's necessary for me to justify why I have these feelings, or if I just don't feel like being around you no more. So I want to clarify something that Ty said. He said, "Oh, we have to change what we say." You don't. I say this to white people all the time. White people are like, "Oh, why can't you say the N-word?" Who said you can't say the N-word? Say it all you want to, but don't expect us to accept it. Don't expect us to like it. And don't expect me to be happy about it. The problem isn't that you can't say things. The issue is that you are okay with how it makes some people feel. And you feel that it needs to be. Now I'm not talking to you, Ty. I'm talking about to people that have that mentality. The feeling that I need to justify to you why my feelings are the way they are, to make you feel more comfortable about something that you feel that you are making me uncomfortable about, is something that I have to reckon with. And then you get into this weeds of, do I really want to be around somebody who doesn't want to accept the fact that I have expressed my level of discomfort with something, but they want me to break down to them so that they can either feel more comfortable or understand why. And only when they're truly able to comprehend it will they accept it. I love this conversation because it's so relevant, and I think that I'm actually, there's content here, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not going to put nobody on blast, but I think that this is a hella relevant conversation. But I do want to bring this back into the fold, this article, because this article this young lady tries to break this type of thing down. So here's a couple other things, Ty, maybe this will shed some light to it. So here's what she says. She says, we don't do the same with males. I've literally seen people use the term man and boy in the same sentence as female, and I find it astonishing that they don't seem to notice what is happening. I can't say I've met anyone who misuses the word male in the same way the word female is thrown around. That alone should be enough of a trigger for someone to think to themselves, you know what? I don't use male in the same way. Why is that? The answer is almost years of internalized misogyny. I think that what I'm reading in these paragraphs is that to use female as a term is to reduce a woman to body parts that are reproductive, just like all species. When women are people that happen to be of the female orient, but way more, and they rather not be reduced to just reproductive organs that are embodied by the word female. Now, I'm gonna keep it real. I still kind of share some of what Ty feels in that I don't mean to be derogative, but I also am very much in Tyrone's court where I'm like, it doesn't matter whether or not I mean to or not. If it generates this type of if it makes one uncomfortable, especially for somebody that I care for, then I'll just step back. And I think that's the one thing that this started off with that was a little unbalanced. Yes, of course, this is your husband that said, okay, no big deal.
Well, that was I do want to just correct real quick. They were friends at the time. They weren't together.
I think she said, hold on, did she say
Her boyfriend or her friend?
She said, I was speaking to my
husband.
Back when we were just friends.
Yeah, you're right.
My husband and I, yeah.
We were just friends. Okay, but they were still friends. You know what I'm saying? They still had camaraderie. It wasn't some dude off the street. But I also
obviously he was trying to be more than friends.
You know what I'm saying? He's like, hey, whatever it takes to get them draws. You know what I'm saying?
Show, baby. I won't call you nothing but
I won't. You know what I'm saying? Hey, you know what I'm saying? So
just saying.
I get it. And I mean, I understand Ty's point. But I also think that some of the stuff that I hear him saying is the same exact stuff that I hear people saying when they say like, well, I don't understand. Like, you know, I remember having an online conversation with a friend of mine. I was on my football team when I posted on my Facebook back when I was heavy on Facebook. I posted something like, oh, look, this black boy made an invention that, you know, it was like one of those, you know, celebratory posts where like it's a young black boy. I think his name was Romani. I remember it because I remember his mom like commented. I was like, thank you for saying all this. But I remember he commented, he was like, why does it matter that he's black? Why can't he just be a boy? You know what I'm saying? And I was like, well, it matters because we see a lot of videos of black people fighting, black people cussing each other out, black people doing a bunch of shenanigans. Y'all like to put black people on blast when there's a march, and some of them go off script and start breaking shit and doing a bunch of other shit. So I thought that this is a good counterbalance to those arguments to make sure that everybody's aware that because your timeline simply shows a bunch of black people fighting, twerking, doing a bunch of other things, that there's also young black people that are doing a lot of good, positive contributions to society in addition to our cultural things. And he was like, all right, I get your point. But in that moment, he wanted me to justify for him why it was that I felt the need to include my race in the post. I mean, with some context, it did make him understand, evidently. But even if he didn't, it wasn't going to stop me from being offended if he was going to say stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and they're. Oh, sorry, your hand went up. Ty, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, and a lot of times when I'm not speaking to the knowingly ignorant. Like there's a difference between the knowingly ignorant that choose to be ignorant and stay ignorant, as opposed to the ones that are ignorant without knowing that they're ignorant. And one of the things that you mentioned, it was the story about Gene. Well, it's very funny that you mentioned the story about Gene because Scott, who you actually had a pleasure of talking to before, who I call my brother, his mom's name was Jean. And I remember my first interaction with them was her calling me colored. And I remember going,
what the fuck is it with Gene?
Listen. No. If he was on here right now, he remembers this like it was yesterday. Like we were over there and we were talking and she said colored and I was like, I was lost for a minute. I was like, well, what color was he? But like, what color? Colored? Because I never heard the word colored. So I went to my mom and I told my mom, like she had called me colored. And so my mom said, oh, we got to have a conversation. So we did. We went and over to Jean's. My mother explained to her, because remember, this woman was from Scotland. That was number one. So she had never been to the United States.
So hold up. She's from Scotland and she named her son Scott?
Yes. and he has red hair. And he has red hair and all of that kind of thing. Yes, he is everything Scottish you could make. You couldn't get more Scottish than that boy. Anyway, but so she was from Scotland. She had just moved to the States. This was her. So there weren't a whole, she wasn't, from my understanding, wasn't like that familiar with black people like that. Like they existed in Scotland, but I'm guessing not like they do anywhere else. But anyway, so this was not her being malice in any way. This was her being just, talking in the way that she was raised and what they were taught that black people were, which were colored. That was how they were defined at that time. So my mom had to explain all of this to her, we're not, there's no colored. He's not an array of colors or anything like that. He is black, and over here we identify as black people in America, but the reason I'm saying all of this, right, is my mom took the time to explain to this woman what everything meant as far as how she now has to change her way of thinking because she's in a different place. Now, had my mom just been, said, fuck it, and just been like, you know what, you can't go over there anymore, or you can't hang out over there anymore, she would have still been under the assumption and drawn her conclusion that black people were colored. So by what I'm saying is, sometimes when you take that time to lend someone understanding, then they can come to a different conclusion, come out of that ignorance, and then move forward, in life, in a positive way. She never ever called me colored again after that, ever in life, and more so, identified me as her son moving forward. You know what I'm saying? Like, she treated me like a mother as opposed to like a other. You know what I'm saying? I think that whole talk with my mom and her understanding that, oh, this is the, you know what I'm saying, this is not how things are. I know this is what you were taught, but this is not how things are. Brought her to a different light. And even with Gene, I know your dad was laughing, but he was probably laughing like, man, I ain't got time to be talking to this old man. He's so set in his ways. He's so set in his ways. It's hard to just to change habit. It's very, very hard to change habit from somebody who's been doing it for so long. But if you have that opportunity to change habit, then I would applaud anybody who takes that time just to lend somebody understanding.
When in this situation here with that article and the points that she made, which I haven't even heard before in this conversation, I think are great points. Do you feel now that you have a better understanding of that and would a different way of moving forward, or are you still like, well, I still am not feeling it, and you got to convince me further?
Well, I don't think from the article I have more understanding based on the stuff that you've been telling me, as far as just kind of like looking at it from a different perspective of just understanding that it affects someone in a negative light, and that's just enough. You know what I'm saying? Like that, but that's another thing, like just having someone who can filter it and break it down in a way to where it's digestible, and also brings true understanding to a situation, allows me to move through life and move through those situations and navigate those situations in a lot easier way than me sitting here and you just saying, you need to believe it because I said it. Like, I've never been one of those people like that. I never will be one of those people just because you said it, I'm supposed to go with it. That's just not how
here's I want to make a point, because I've always wanted to just like open this Pandora's box for everybody. So this is just like a very general point. We often look at ourselves as like, you can't just convince me of anything without me asking questions. But our entire way of being in our patriarchal system, in our capitalist system, is all stuff that we bought hook, line, and sinker without questioning a single thing. So I say that only to say, once I understood that about myself, that like a lot of the way that I live my life was just stuff that people fed to me, and I was like, okay, no questions, let's do this thing. You know what I mean? And then only now, as we're starting to get older, we're starting to like look for more understanding. Are we finding the questions? Are we finding different answers? So, the reason I bring that up is to say, when somebody challenges a traditionally held belief or something that you've been doing for a long time, we do tend to hold on to those things very tight because they're like, this is part of who I am. I grew up like this and blah, blah, blah. But the idea, when we didn't have an idea at all, and then an idea was introduced to us, and we're like, okay, that's it. Like when we heard Craig say, that's a female, man, and we just went around, nobody was like, hey, Craig, why'd you call her female instead of a woman? You know, nobody asking questions about that. We're just like, we're just cool, female. That's what it is. So we are not as tightly locked down as we think we are. And most of our ideas about life were stuff that we just accepted without any questions. So I'm not saying that you should accept things without question going forward. Absolutely not. Don't do that. Question everything, without a doubt, 100%. But when it comes to challenging your old ideas, I would challenge all of us, and I do this to myself all the time, not to hold on to my old ideas so tightly just because they were there. You know, where did they come from? Why are they here? Who gave me this idea? What societal factors were present during this idea? You know, when we're talking about this kind of stuff, it's the same. These are the same things that keep racism alive, that keep bigotry alive, that keep misogyny alive, all that stuff. So our traditions are not things that are innate in our biology and where we're just like born with these things. A lot of the traditions that we hold so dear are societal conditioning that we just accepted.
And I think you're right about that, Tyrone. But you also made a fair point, and I think it bears me bringing it out and making sure that it's isolated, because you said that we accepted a lot of things hook, line, and sinker, but a lot of that was because we were in a position that it was necessary. When you get older, like you said, we now have the ability to make decisions for ourselves. We have the ability to go out there and do the necessary steps, to take the necessary steps to do our due diligence and find out what is true, what is not true, what is believable, what's not believable. But when you're younger and you're, just for the sake of argument, we were raised by our parents, so we were under their tutelage and whatever it was that they learned, that they kind of pretty much fed to us. And so like we had to absorb it. We didn't have a choice of it. A lot of in this particular circumstance, in this particular argument, as far as the female versus the woman, this goes even deeper, because you're now talking about a word in which you learned in school as a way to define character groups. And that's what I'm saying. Like it's not like this word is something like bitch, which it by definition is a female dog, but then became slang to identify, women or, men who was, whatever, or whatever the case may be. This is not a slander word. This is the word that was already defined. And that's all I was saying. Like,
right. Well, and to that, we didn't learn in school to like, look at that group of females over there. We didn't learn that in school. We learned, female as it's defined in this article and stuff like that. The rest of it came just kind of like, from our atmosphere, from our, whether maybe it's regional for some people, maybe it's person, whatever, like that kind of stuff came not from school, not from like, science or biology, but that's the slang part of it. A group of females, that kind of thing.
But hasn't woman now been redefined? That wasn't the term woman is now has been redefined as not to just include female character, a female human.
Oh, you could say woman, and that encompasses anybody who is a cis woman, who is a trans woman, who identifies as a woman, who would rather like you could. That's a beautifully non-problematic catch-all for anybody who would identify themselves as a woman. There's really not like nobody's gonna like if you're like that group of women over there. Maybe somebody would be like, well, how do you know they're all women? You'd be like, well, that group of women presenting people, like, you could get into that little argument, but then that's just somebody trying to pick fights. but like women is a catch-all that includes everybody, even under our new understanding and our evolving understanding of the gender spectrum or the sexual spectrum and stuff like that.
So Tyrone, if we get rid of the word female, is that a way of now not defining whether or not a woman is defined by being able to procreate?
Nobody's advocating for getting rid of the word female. It's more just more accurately using the word should you want to use it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't think that all women procreate. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that all women can procreate.
No. The word female describes, but like as far as like I guess genealogy, right? Is that what we're talking about here?
Well, let me ask you this: when's the last time you addressed a man as a male? As you ponder on that.
If I'm being honest, if I'm differentiating between females and males, I usually will say females and males. Or if
would you ever say, because Tyrone is a male, or would you be like, yo, Tyrone is a dude, he's a man, he's a boy, that's my boy. And I think that distinction kind of is what this article is kind of drawing a line as. It's like they feel, especially as women are often in many circles, not outwardly, but inwardly considered second-class citizens and given lesser chances, lesser pay, lesser equal rights, are also now given a word that defines them by their body parts as opposed to as their, their humanhood, which a female could be any species. A woman is a female human being. So they don't want to be reduced. And that's what I'm reading from this. I want to bring this last part up from the article, because I think this part, it doesn't drive the point home. And I agree that this article doesn't necessarily clear everything up, but it just kind of shares her experience as it pertains to trying to get this point across, and people that she knows trying to get this point across, and the difficulty therein. So the solution aspect of it. So she says the solution is simple, and that's debatable in itself, depending on what group you're talking to. But this piece is very short because the solution is so extremely easy. However, and this is important, the solution can't happen unless people are willing to execute that change. I mentioned earlier that my husband stopped misusing the word female after we had a brief conversation about it, which goes to your point. It was explained to him and he got the point. But in another sense, he may have had an ulterior motive and wanted to get the point and maybe wanted her to not, give him no shit about it. Recently, a friend of mine shared on social media her frustration with men misusing the term female. Naturally, a number of men commented on the post, mostly confused, questioning why this is so offensive. So you're not alone in that journey. This part is understandable. See, it's not that bad. When we're met with new information that challenges what we already know, it's natural to ask questions to gain a better understanding. So that's nothing wrong with that. My friend proceeded to calmly explain the reasons why people shouldn't. Now, I didn't see the post. So, I mean, oftentimes when we describe ourselves and our side of the story, we always seem to be the common. Like, you ever heard this like an argument between you and your wife? All I said was, why
very non-aggressively. Extremely non-aggressive, but
right. We always think of ourselves as kids. So anyway, but my friend proceeded to calmly explain the reasons why people shouldn't misuse the word female and the negative implications it has. The problem lies in the reaction that took place after. Not only were a number of them rationalizing the misuse of the term female, right after perceiving valid reasons, saying otherwise, they essentially just dismissed the issue altogether. Their stance went from "I don't understand" to "I understand now. I just don't want to." And ultimately, that is what's going to differentiate the people that I want to associate with from who I don't. And I think that's ultimately the point. This part is just a little is driving a point home. It would cost these men absolutely nothing to listen to a woman when she says she finds this type of behavior offensive and unnecessary. Instead, there was more just rationalizing. I only use it with females. I don't think I don't think should get to be called women. And Ty just has said nothing like that. Nobody said that here.
Absolutely.
Well, women should stop doing XYZ first and dismissing. If men wanted to be disrespectful, they would just say the B word, you know. To be honest, I'm still not sure why this was such an issue for them or other men and women who believe there's no problem here. All I can say is this: pay attention to how people react when you come to them with genuine feelings. When you come to them with truth, vulnerability, when you come to them with truth and vulnerability, pay attention to how they react when you present them with a request to change certain behavior or action. With this, you could easily detect true intentions. So I guess the underlying point
an
is
extremely biased article. Like she, like it you.
I mean, she's a.
I mean, yeah. But what I'm saying is in regards to how she listed the responses of the men.
Yeah,
But
that
when
part.
it came down to my friend said, but you didn't say shit about what she said. Like that, she very calmly. That's all you like. At least give me like one thing that she said or anything. But it's just like, nah, they all reacted to what. I'm just like, all right, cool.
Well, she
I have a problem. If this is if this is a big deal, because I don't really say the word female that often. I said it earlier because I was literally describing young girls and how they were reacting back in the day in regards to that. So I wasn't trying to be malicious in the way that I used the word female. But if it causes that much of an issue to the point where it's like, oh, this is offensive, then it's not. I mean, there's, like I said, that's just one word, one of many words that are used to describe women.
Yeah, please stop calling. Oh, I can't even make that joke, man. I can't even make that joke right now. It would have fucked up the whole conversation. So I used to use a joke. We got to quit calling these hoes bitches, but I don't even want to say it.
Hey, don't do that no more.
I gotta leave that low. I mean, I gotta say that for the stage and apologize. Check this skit out right quick. I think this shit's hilarious. Hold on real quick.
Yo, welcome back to the Hoes Not Human podcast. I like to hang out at like Applebee's late May, early June, so I can catch the girls who graduate from high school coming to celebrate with their families. So I get them around 18 or almost 18. You know, it's the perfect age. Because once they turn 21, they old. They used up. Yep. Like once they get 5 bodies, they body shut down. I don't think y'all understand. A woman not supposed to have that many bodies. Her kidneys, all that should start to shut down. I'm telling you. Nah, bro, yeah. And that's why I didn't go see Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Because they trying to erase the black man. I don't know what this woman empowerment, even with the woman king, a woman can't be king. A woman can't be king. That's why they call it a king. I'm the only king. Black man, yeah. In the universe of raccoon talk, I don't understand how a black man can get beat by a fish superhuman. We're having a tape rally on Thursday. Y'all pull up. And that's their problem. They want a Pookie and Ray Ray. They don't want a king like me. They want a Pookie and a Ray Ray. Man. You pardon, bro. He pardon. You want to talk about violence against women and femicide or whatever other new words they done made up. But y'all twerk and wear lashes, though. You spitting. Yo, welcome back to the Hoes Not Human podcast.
Hilarious.
Yo, every last one of these joints is hilarious.
If you not douching every day, like if you're not putting vinegar and like boric acid and like rat poisoning down there every day, what are you doing? Like you're dirty.
Man.
I digest his food for him and I spit it in his mouth like he a baby bird. So because my man don't need to have to chew. Why should my man chew?
Any woman over 123 pounds is obese and needs to be eradicated off the earth. I don't even have a primary care physician, but I do know them 200-pound women are gonna die of a heart stroke. They gonna die. Why you sitting like this? 200-pound woman needs to be wiped off of earth. For real. Cause why are you that big? You trying to be God? Yeah.
If you not douching every day, like if you're not putting vinegar and like boric acid.
Right. I'm sorry. This is. I mean, it goes at exactly like who we are right now.
What I need my
Oh no, I
side
would
teeth
say
for?
I would.
What I need my side teeth for? Like, bro, yes, same. If you worry about my side teeth, you need to be worried about that body count. Whore, you be on it, bro.
I don't ask men for money because that's just so poor. Like, that is such a poor thing. Like, I have paid for every date I've ever been on. I've paid. I have paid for every date I've ever been
Okay,
on.
Big Mish. Oh, she's spitting now. Oh, hold on, that. Hold on, Mish.
And because I'm not a gold digger. Like, this city girl stuff. Like, I'm not a city girl. I'm a lover girl. Okay, like, I'm not a hot girl. I'm the coldest girl you can ever find.
Every time, bro, you be spitting. I swear to God.
I mean, I've been on like 3 dates. I am single. Like, when I was talking about like things I would do for my man, like, I was just saying hypothetically. Like, hypothetically, that's what I would do.
Y'all want a decent man, but can't stop being a whore? Bro, QD always knows. I heard you kissed CJ in 7th grade. I ain't forgot. You want somebody to wife you now? Yeah, you want somebody to wife you? It's not happening, bro. It's not happening.
Yeah.
QD always know. I'm telling you. He always know. What I need my side teeth for?
I love that. Yeah, no, I would absolutely never. You would never find me in that conversation because I've seen those podcasts and I've seen those people, and damn, that shit is spot the fuck on.
Oh my God. They got the chick clucking, you know what I'm saying? Oh, it's just, oh my God. This shit is just so funny to me, man. I mean, you say you want to wipe you, but you kissed CJ in the 7th grade. You think I forgot? All right. Well, yeah, I thought it was funny. You know what I'm saying? But, I didn't mean to, come at, anybody that I don't want to offend nobody, whatever. All right.
I mean, I don't think you offended nobody on this podcast.
No,
that would probably be offensive to anybody who watches those podcasts.
Yeah. I hope those people are offended. I hope those podcast people are offended by that, and they are. They're statements. Yeah. But those are the type of people you want to offend.
Bro, I don't even be like that, bro. Like, I don't even be like that, bro.
Let me see. I think I got one more for you. All right, here we go.
I'm back. Another episode of the Holds Not Human podcast. Today we got a special guest that is a female. We found a female to come on the show.
What's up, y'all?
Welcome. Sorry you ain't got a mic. We only had 2. But anyway, so women literally serve no purpose ever in the entire universe. Like, God just needed us to have somebody to have dominion over. Literally, God came to me in a dream and told me this. So we could even have babies without women. We don't need women. Bars. You can put some semen in aluminum foil and put it in the air fryer for 47 minutes and you're going to have a baby. That's really how babies are made. We really don't need all that 9-month stuff. Like, we don't need women. Right? Bro. I got to take my glasses off on now.
As a female, like, I hold my man down. Like, if you doing a bid, I'll do the bid for you. If you get shot, I'll get shot for you. Like, I would do whatever for my man because, like, that's my man.
She a real one.
What does he do? Return nothing. He's a man. Like, all he got to do is be my man.
They not gonna like this one. Women are not human beings. They just there for decoration.
Quadritric, stop. You are so, oh my God, brother. I agree, and I'm a female. So I'm a female and I agree. So
y'all not trying to hear me though. Y'all not trying to, because when I say stuff, y'all don't want to hear me. Yo, welcome back. Another episode of the Holds Not Human podcast.
I did want to stop and bring your attention to the comment section. The irony is that she's still single. All this pick-me behavior, and she's still single. You know what I'm saying? Like, the shit that they say, not that I'm a female, the abuse of the word female be a dead giveaway. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we're not in the lexicon. You know what I'm saying? Not the pick-me podcaster coming in. Yeah, y'all know what a pick-me is? Y'all familiar? You familiar with the term pick-me, Ty?
You said pick-me or pygmy?
Pick-me.
Pick.
Pick-me is like a word. It's like a term that they use to describe. I'm probably gonna get this wrong. I think Nolly's in the comments. What's up, Nolly? Nolly's in the comments. What's up? I think that the term pick-me is meant to describe a woman that is basically gonna come out and be like, basically how she is like, I'm gonna say all the right stuff. I'm gonna do whatever it is. I'm gonna bathe. I'm my man, I'm gonna wash his feet, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna do all this, you know what I'm saying? Pick me, like I'm the one. I ain't like these independent women out there that's trying to like make you feel down. Don't worry, I'm gonna do whatever, you know.
Oh wow.
You know, I mean, some would, you know, I mean, it's you know, it's a term, but you know, I agree, and I'm a female. So, like that suddenly makes the comment makes less stupid. Girl, you can shut right up with, okay, yeah, thank you. Call them out, sis. These podcasts talk down on women, yet every one of them is the men who got cheated on as a kid. And I think all women are prayerful. Sorry, you ain't got a mic. Oh, yes. Y'all realize those male on podcasts never bring in smart women. And if they do, I mean, basically the point is, man, like there's a whole, like, this is a cultural issue that we as men, if we're not put up on it, we completely blindsided to it, as Ty was today when he walked right in, and it was such a slow motion walk. He's like, "Yo, well, she's a female," so I was like, this was literally a point of conversation.
I didn't say she was. I didn't even get to finish what I was saying, but I didn't say she's a female. I was saying back in the day, females, and then I said female, and it was like, oh, and I was like, huh? What the?
Because I posted the topics in the chat. And one of the topics that I posted, it said woman versus female. And hold on, what did it say? I think I posted all of this. Yeah. It says, this is why I was like, what? It says women versus female. My position aligns with this. And then I posted I think I posted the link to it, but it was meant to it was like, I had forgot that you hadn't, you know, you're not privy to the conversations happening in there.
I was just being segue material right there.
I was like, oh shit, you know what I'm saying? Oh wow, this shit right here.
I will like, but this when I started seeing these videos, I was like, this is so perfect because like I see a lot of the clips of like those kinds of podcasts where it's just dudes saying the most out of pocket shit, and I'm like, what, y'all really believe this? Like you're going to be mad and alone for the rest of your life. I implore men out here, just start listening to women. Watch these clips. You're getting a lot of good advice. Like women are giving us all the secrets. Like we're learning all the secrets as to like how to just be like not be a piece of shit. And it's perfect. I love it.
Here's one last one for y'all real quick. I ain't seen this one yet, but I'm assuming it's gonna be hilarious. Let's check it out.
I am a modest female. Like I am so modest, and I'm such a modest female. And a lot of these females is not.
My thing is, say I'm a jump drive, and if I'm a jump drive that can go to many different computers, it's the master jump drive. If your computer is accepting multiple jump drives, it's a faulty computer. Throw the computer away.
I understand why y'all would want to go get a 14-year-old in Guatemala for your wife, because the women in America act like they so much better than y'all.
Mish. If only there was like a black woman who shared my point of view and would listen to everything I say in my proximity that I could be with. So anyway, trauma is why I act the way that I act. But like, y'all need to heal. And that's why I only like 11-year-olds, bro, because if you've lived long enough to experience negative experiences,
all people like, you would pick me. Like, first of all, I'm picked by Jesus. So y'all don't need, no, for real. I'm picked by Jesus. And I can't be everybody's wife. So it's just, that's why I'm single, because I can't be everybody's wife.
Okay. I keep telling you, you're a real one. You say a man killed you, but why were you alive around a man to begin? Yeah, bro. That's it. He couldn't kill you if you weren't alive. Stop being alive. I don't know what to tell you.
That's it right there. That's it. Like I am
thank you, Mel. Hey, that's
why were you alive around a man to begin with? That's pretty fucking
why are you alive around a man to begin with?
That should be next week's title to our show. So why was you alive around a man to begin with? Like that is golden.
Oh man. Well, listen, it's funny because the title of this was the Andor versus Mandalorian debate, and it is turned into
none of that shit.
Anything but.
We did the old bait and switch.
Yeah, so my bad for the nurse that came in wanting to talk about Din Djarin and Cassian, and ended up learning more about Mel Mitch than they had before. But all right, just to throw a couple nerd things before we go, man, because I don't know about y'all, but I got to head out of here.
Yeah, it's Sunday already. Yeah.
Here's some other of my funny FAMU sisters skits that I think are worth note.
Okay, as soon as y'all call, I know a little Espanol. I want to speak about T'Challa as a friend. So you from Cancun? Okay, all right, Cancun. Notice I'm the only Avenger that was invited to the funeral. The rest of them wasn't invited to the funeral. This dorm cute or whatever, but you too good for Spelman. How FAMU? Shouldn't leave her. We don't know her like that. She has lost everything. She has. Well, baby, I'm so sorry for your loss, but your mama died 500 years ago. What you want us to do about it? Okay. So y'all hiring? Michael, watch out! Ooh. Girl, he done knocked Michael out. If y'all don't get this lady that Oscar, I know something. Queen So for the final battle, I'm not really too keen on getting my hair wet. So we killed him on it. Now y'all buddy? All right. I just need y'all to. This little Cyrus song is cute. I got Lamar. So, Namor, you like being splashed, huh? You right, it's a Disney movie. I didn't have to say that. I'm sorry. I was doing that. Because I got some cool chi. All right. Okay, as soon as y'all call. I know a little Espanol.
Yo,
but I got some cool chi.
This is the one I thought that I had. Oh shit! Did she wear that shit? Oh no, that's Kevin Street. This is the one that I had. This is the one that I was gonna use on the show today, and then we'll get up out of here.
Now, why I gotta be in charge of detention? All right, let me see who all in detention. Of course, it's y'all. I'm gonna find me a muggle, a good muggle child. Hey! Don't let Albert stress you out, girl. Draco Malfoy is in here for using wizard slurs again. Next time, I'm gonna just knock you out. How about we do that? What am I supposed to do with these bad kids? Bad wizard kids at that. Hermione, you're in here for punching Draco in the face for said wizard slurs. Good job. Draco, get your feet off my desk. Harry, you're in here because adult wizards keep trying to kill you, so this is the only safe place for you to go with me. And Ron, you just here because Harry and Hermione are here. That's on brand. Do you know that Lockhart, the scammer, is still up to his foolishness? Asking me if I got cash out. No! Dean, you're here for being black on a Wednesday afternoon. Now, how they write this up? Harry, you still talk to sis from Bo Biden's? How that's going? Ron, why are you crying now? You don't even need to be in here. So Minerva, okay, with transfiguration, every time I try to transform into a cat, a little Yorkie, a rabbit, whatever, my booty be so big they know it's me. So I'm trying to figure out now why I gotta be in charge of detention. All right, let me see you all in detention.
All right, well, baby, y'all.
Of course it's y'all. I'm gonna find me a muggle.
That's Mel Mitchell, man, and we're probably. I'm kind of glad that we had this conversation, man, because had it happened with our woman counterparts present, it might not have had the luxury of having the provided added context of this culture that we're not always privy to. That I, frankly, had it not been for my wife, would have fallen right with it. You know what I'm saying? Because we literally had that same conversation. We wasn't friends. We was married when it happened, but she was like, "Why is you saying female?" I was like, "Well, that's what you're. You know what I'm saying?" I was literally everything that Ty said. I was like, "I don't understand. Like, it's not that big a deal. You call me a dude. Am I a dude? Am I? And the ultimate point is, it doesn't matter. I don't have. Why am I so hung up on saying something? If it's gonna cause somebody that I adore, admire, like, if it's gonna cause them discomfort, then why force it? You know what I'm saying? I guess that's the ultimate moral of the story, I guess. All right, man. I'll let y'all go. I think we starting to. I think Ty is the high magistrate right now. He high over there.
I am, bro. Yeah. I wish you could be here and enjoy some of this.
Nah, man.
Medicinal, bro.
Like, my tolerance is completely thrown off. I like the other day I hit like a roach and I couldn't wake up the next day. And
This is that, bro. This is Return of the Sour.
Oh, whoa, bro.
Return of the Sour, bro.
That sour shit fucked my eyes up, man.
Bro, look at my eyes, bro.
Yeah, I could. Yeah,
I'm not playing. This is not fake.
What eyes? I don't see no damn eyes. What are you talking about? I see eyelids. I see eyelids and eyebrows.
Let me open it. Let me open them up for y'all.
Nope.
Wow.
We got to get the 8K camera over here to catch Ty's pupils real quick.
Hold up, man. Hold up. Does Ty even have eyes anymore? Wow, man. And
he pulled 4 months to open his eyes that wide.
That's crazy, bro. Yeah, wow. Look, and you struggling to get them eyes like
that. This thing's heavy. Like, as soon as I look, like I'm like this.
Yeah, you definitely using that, man. On that note, man, let's get up out of here. I got a couple calls, a couple things to make, man. And if I got some time, if I don't run out tonight, and I ain't gonna play with y'all. I'll probably
look for you, Tyrone. What you got going on today, brother? You got some stuff going on today? You got shows?
I got some friends in town and stuff this weekend. We're supposed to be meeting. You know, they're doing the whole New York thing. You know, people love to visit New York, so
yeah.
Friends. Yeah, so I got a friend in town. We're gonna go hang out. Probably tonight, probably tomorrow night. So
okay,
nice.
Yeah.
All right. I think. Well, I think that I hope I don't. But there's some good fodder here. I may just chop some of this up.
I think, and I've said this before. Like, I love having these conversations because there are a lot of people out there that are not knowingly ignorant, and really are trying to change, and just are asking, just to gain some understanding, and just lend them that, because it's very hard to change habits that you've done your entire life because someone says you have to change. There's always going to be pushback when you try to just take away something that someone's so comfortable with, and then just tell them like, oh, we're taking it away and don't ask me why. So, and that's what a lot of people are feeling like. Just lend me some, just a little bit. You ain't even. I'm not sitting here saying explain away your soul. But just like, just take the time to be like, look, yeah, you know what? I'm glad you're interested in changing. Here, let me be Tyrone and be the best filter a dude could ask for. A male can ask for.
A male human.
A male human can ask for. You know what I'm saying? You know, but like seriously, everybody is not afforded necessarily a Tyrone, but just be when you are in these positions. Don't take it so personal. If you know that this person is coming from a loving place, I would indulge a conversation with that person and afford them a conversation. Because that in itself is enough. Now, if they still want to stay ignorant, then by all means, tell them to kiss your ass and keep it moving. But you know, you might be able to save somebody.
Yeah. If we had more time, I would tie this into the white people use the N-word comment. You know what I'm saying? And then that goes to a whole other level. That's a whole nother.
Tune in next time.
Yeah, next time for that banter, man. On that note, man, I'm gonna go ahead and end this shit because goddamn, Ty. Looking at Ty making me tired.
Hey guys, I love the new Blurred Order. You should too.
Whoa.